do this. Well, good evening and welcome to PJNET.TV. This is the Eagle's Nest, Studio 7. We don't get to use Studio 7 very much, but tonight is a special occasion because we get to use Studio 7. Now, what is Studio? Well, you're looking at it, but why do we seldom use Studio 7? Well, because tonight is special for two reasons. Number one, we have two guests. And number two, they are first-time guests. And it's always a special first-time guest number 352. Yeah. We finally got it right and I'd like to introduce to you, this is a husband-wife pair. Before I do, Alexa, would you please bring the monitors down on stage for us here? So thank you. All right. Thank you, Alexis. And here you will find, over here, is Tim Bishop. And over here is his wife, Debbie Bishop. Now, I don't know who is the more talkative one in the brief time we've had to share with one another. I'm gonna start with Debbie because I feel this sort of kindred spirit with you because apparently you are a cyclist. That puts you in a pretty small group of people who are fanatics about cycling, and I guess you're kind of a health nut then too. You look like you're in excellent shape. Have you always been a cyclist?
I started riding my bike pretty young. My dad, I remember getting my training wheels off, and I lived in Colorado from about 17 years old to about 38. And I did not do a lot of biking there because it was so hilly, mountainous. And so I wanted to move back east because that's where I grew up. So in 96, I packed up, quit my job, and moved back east. And my first thing I wanted to do, besides finding a job and getting a place to live, I bought a bicycle and rode my bike to the Boston Marathon and watched the marathon and joined a bicycling group and rode for a year before I fell off my bike and smashed my face a month before my 40th birthday and broke my teeth and my lip and my glasses. And someone said, "You've got to get back on your bike." And so I did. And then I met Tim in 2003. So a lot happened between 96, 97, and 2003. But I love bicycling. And I've always loved I love exercise, period.
Was it
You said
recreational
earlier,
or competitive?
oh no, recreational, definitely.
Okay.
I'm kind of a slow and steady endurance bicyclist. And I try to go fast, but it's just not in me anymore.
Well, after what happened, I would probably back off a little bit. Just slow down.
Yeah.
It was.
Uh,
Tim, I think you're riding bikes now, but I think that's an interest that you picked up when you met Debbie. Am I right?
No, actually, I did that from a very young age. And when I got into the working world after college, bicycling seemed like a good idea, good way to get exercise. I really enjoyed doing it. And so I got myself actually a touring bike at the time. And I would ride that for rides after work or on the weekend, maybe 25 or 30 miles a pop. Just a real good workout. And so I stuck with it. I had a friend that was on a board and we started a bike at Christian school. So that was my introduction into longer rides because one of the options on that bike-a-thon was a 100-mile century.
What is a bike Christian school?
Christian school. Did I say bike Christian school?
I may have misunderstood you because you did
Yeah.
drop out there for a moment. But
Yeah.
so
No, it was a K to 12 Christian school.
oh, okay.
That was, of course, those schools always need to raise money.
Yeah, yeah, and in spite of the money they raise, they still can become quite expensive for the parents who send them. Because my parents did that with me.
Uh-huh.
Is it? I'm connecting dots here, maybe that don't connect. But you're a biker, she's a biker. Did perhaps the two of you meet biking?
We actually met on the internet. I had finished grad school in 2002, I think, or 2003, and I had just wanted to meet someone. So I went on this website. I think it was called Love and Seek, and got I think we both had like free subscriptions for maybe a month. I don't even remember. So I filled out a profile. I said I wanted a serious relationship, and had a little picture of myself in front of this. I skied a lot in Colorado, so I had a picture of
Mhm.
myself in this in Vail, Colorado, in front of this huge ski statue.
Mhm.
And Tim had a profile, and he was looking for a friend, I think. So we just met and started emailing each other for about a year before we met in person.
And that meeting was actually a bicycle ride in southern New Hampshire, which
Yeah.
was kind of like a midpoint between where we lived.
Mm. An unusual fact that you shared with me earlier, that the two of you got married at the age of 52, and each of you were marrying for the first time. Is there a story there?
Oh, yes.
I was wondering who was going to take that out.
It's pretty lengthy one, but yeah, Debbie and I were both longing for a companion. On my side, I was kind of entrenched in a long-term job and took great satisfaction and joy from that, but always wanted companionship, and it just never seemed to work for me, never worked out. And while I went online early 2000s, a little bit leery about doing it, but I said, I'm going to give this a try. Nothing else is working. So, and then I met Debbie, and as she described earlier, it was just a very short, I think I had a 1 month for $10 trial, and she got hers for free. I keep telling her she got what she paid for. But that was kind of took some time because Debbie was, we both had our separate lives. She's a school teacher, and she had some other romantic interests at the time as well. So, yeah, God worked it out in time. What would
Debbie,
you say about it, Deb?
I would say that's a good summary. I in my 20s I had a long-term relationship, 7 years, and oh my gosh, it was not good. I mean, we got engaged, and everyone was like, "Well, you can always get divorced." And I said, "That's not really what I'm looking for." And so just a lot of bad dating situations, and I had finally felt like the Lord said, after years of being single, you've learned as much as you can about being single. And, when Tim and I met, I don't know, we didn't really talk about, we were friends for so long, which was so important because I think that's the best part of our marriage. I mean, we love each other, we enjoy each other's company, and we both love Jesus. And the friendship, when things get difficult, we always say, we're friends, we're husband and wife and friends. And it just we've had a really firm foundation, which is awesome.
I just I'm trying to cast myself into that situation of online dating because I think we're all about the same age here. That's not what that's not how I grew up. Was it scary?
Debbie, you left out a little tidbit when you explained it earlier how my profile was up there, but I didn't leave a picture. Yeah, I was very cautious about it. And I've discovered through that process that until you meet somebody face to face, you don't really know them. And you can really be fooled into what you think the person is like until you actually meet them. So I always tell people, user beware on this. And I coach on the internet now, people who are struggling with life issues, and I get that topic a fair amount of the time. And I always have to say, what do you mean by dating this person? Have you met face to face? And so we go down the trail of, you need to meet this person face to face and spend some face time together to really get to know them. But we were able to do that. We lived, I say, 4 hours apart from Debbie's to my place and 5 hours from my place to her place. She's a little heavier on the gas pedal.
Oh, okay.
I was more anxious to see you, maybe.
Maybe she's done used to driving in the. Well, no, she lived in Colorado. Driving in the snow should not be a problem. So,
Right.
So, yeah, but we got to do some FaceTime for sure because we were only that far apart. And yeah, here we are.
I was
Debbie,
totally shocked when he proposed, actually, because I don't know. We went up to Cadillac Mountain in Maine, and Tim was just about to retire, like the next day. So he invited me up to this his retirement party. And so we hiked up and we saw the sunset, and we're sitting there on top of Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park, which was gorgeous. And he said, "Debbie, I love you so much." I said, "Well, I love you too." I mean, this is after 7 years of knowing him. And so he said, "Well, I love you so much, I want to marry you." I go, "Really? You want to marry me?" And I was so shocked, and it was just amazing. And Tim took a picture of me, and I was glowing that night. He was working on his speech for his retirement party, and I guess it was based on whether I said yes or no.
oh,
And
mhm.
so at the retirement party, no one at his job knew about me. He kept me top secret, I guess. So it was just a really fun celebration.
And I think
And
the people in that room were more surprised than you were. They should have heard the reaction. Debbie was there, and at the end of my talk, I introduced her and then said, well, and yesterday we went down to Acadia National Park, and I asked her if she would marry me. And the whole room erupted.
Well, it was more. It wasn't a question. Anyway, I want to get to Tim in a moment, but Debbie, I wanted you alluded to something. You knew you were obviously going to his retirement party, and I don't pretend to understand women, but my general feeling is that women are more security conscious. And you've been in a relationship, now you're going to get married. He's going to announce it at his retirement party, and there's a whole open world of what. Was there any feelings of insecurity? I mean, you knew what you signed up for, I hope.
mhm. Yeah, actually, that's kind of interesting that you picked up on that because I thought, I had this little image that I was teaching full time. I was a literacy interventionist, or actually specialist at an elementary school in Massachusetts. And I figured I was 52 at the time. So I thought, well, I will just work till I'm 65 and then I'll get my retirement, blah, blah, blah. So Tim's like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do after I retire. How about if we bicycle across the country? And I was so excited about that. But then when reality hit, I thought, well, he'll move to Massachusetts. He moved into the condo I had bought, and I thought he'll look for a job, and he didn't. So I was like, "Oh no," but it was fine. I mean, he's a very good steward of God's gifts that He's given him, and we've been fine financially, and I've been working part time. I retired in 2013 from full time, and but yeah, that was definitely something that I. It wasn't so much insecurity; it was more of an expectation. Like, yeah, he's going to go get another job. You know, he was only 52. So,
Well,
And
Tim,
the term retirement here was a little bit of a misnomer. It was a retirement from that company, but not retirement per se. I was going to be doing something, and I wanted it to be more connected to how God was leading me. I just felt He was leading me out of that situation.
mm,
well, you're a champion, Tim, and one of the words that gets tossed around here and elsewhere in the culture, but we often talk about our journey with Christ, our Christian walk, uh, but when you say you retired so you could take to start this journey, I think you meant that in a more literal sense.
No, I didn't, but it's a good point. Um, yeah, I had interests in writing, but I also had interests in ministry activities, and it took a little time to kind of sort that out, and I think it's still taking time to sort that out. But yeah, so the bicycle journey was one thing, but the journey of how is God going to use what He's poured into me is quite another. And Debbie's had the same kind of struggles as she's
mm.
gotten older as well.
Well, tell us
Same,
about the bicycle journey, because you you
Oh, it
take
was
you take this
awesome.
to a whole new level.
Okay, so he proposed in April, and then we got married June 19th, and then we took off on our bicycles in July. We flew out to Portland, Oregon. Well, between April, Tim finished his work May 1st, and then I was still in school till I think June 17th. So he planned the wedding. He planned all the bicycle equipment that we had to buy. And since we were older, my school put on a really great bridal shower for me, and I got gift cards from LL Bean and REI, and we had to buy everything because our trip was self-supporting. So it was quite a, what was that, honey? 7 weeks?
roughly.
Yeah, from proposal to marriage. And it was such an exciting time. So my cousin lives in Oregon, so we shipped the bikes out to Oregon and flew out there and got on our bikes thanks to my cousin helping us. He took us to the coast, and then we had maps from Adventure Cycling. And Tim, thank goodness, was the navigator because we'd still be out there if I was. And we just had 63 days of being together 24/7 after having a long distance relationship for 7 years. So it was an adjustment.
Now, mind
Tell
you, this trip wasn't necessarily going to be a trip from Oregon to Maine. That was kind of like a dream. We thought, well, we'll get out there and see how it works. We never bicycled and stayed overnight and bicycled the next day. We're both day bicyclists only. So we bought enough gear that would get us across the country, but we figured, well, we just get married. We don't even know what married life is like, let alone bicycling across the country. So if we bicycle for a week or two and, yeah, this isn't for us or it's too hard, we'll
Mhm.
find an airport, ship the bikes back, and
Mhm.
hey, we had a good honeymoon.
Yeah.
But by the time we got to Great Falls, Montana, we'd bicycled 15 days straight, and we were just pumped about it, just so excited. But 15 days straight, we had a medical problem, and we had to stop in Great Falls and kind of wait and see how that was going to sort out. But when that sorted out, I think we were there 5 days. And after we got cleared to go, oh, wow, we were on a tear. And Debbie, of course, had a deadline to get back to school in September. So we really hoofed it. It was just awesome.
Well, I can only imagine a bicycle trip across country. That's beyond my comprehension. But here you are, newlyweds. And, it's one thing to go on an event for a day and ride with your partner or whatever. But when you're not only are you now living together, you're bicycling across the country together. I guess you get to know each other real well, real quick.
Oh, yes. Honestly, I felt, some people said, someone at the bike shop said, but when we were preparing, they're like, oh, you guys are doing this together? I don't know. It might not last. You might get divorced. I'm like, no, we're not going to get divorced. But we did. It felt like we got to know each other in those 63 days, like it was almost like a 5-year period shrunk down to 63 days.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
It was a supersized blessing from God. And when you look at how long we had waited, and so many prayers, not just our prayers, but prayers of people around us, it was just incredible. And of course, yes, there was certainly some headbutting that occurred and some adjustments, but we had to work together. So the fact that we were doing this journey together really helped to bond us.
Well, and you have to be, if you're going together, you have to be in reasonably on par with each other in physical condition, because one's having to slow down and and this can create tension and friction. I'm going to the chat room. Star Airs writes that it's beyond my comprehension, especially if they hadn't trained for it. Only day riders. Now, I happen to know that Star, she's in excellent condition, but one of the reasons is that she has been an avid runner. So if she says that she can't imagine doing that, I guess there's no statistics out there. But how many people do you know that have gone literally across the country on a bicycle in any period of time?
It's not really as hard as it seems.
Oh, okay.
After the first 2 weeks, if you stick with it and you keep getting some mileage in, you actually work yourself into shape. And by the time you're done, you're in the best shape of your life.
Now,
yeah, go ahead.
Was this the days prior to GPS? We're using paper maps.
I can't hear anything.
That's a loaded question. I had gotten a GPS, biking GPS. Can you hear me? So I've got a note here that says my sound is gone.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, but I think we've lost audio for Debbie, I'm afraid. Debbie, nod your head if you can hear me.
Yeah, she's out.
Yeah, she's barely coming through.
Hello?
Yes, we heard that. We'll just give her a minute to fidget with her stuff. Well,
yeah, I got this bicycling GPS, and as Debbie explained, it was really frenetic, getting ready for a wedding, making travel arrangements, buying all the gear, etc. And so the night before we were to fly out to Portland from Massachusetts, which is where we lived at the time, I pulled out this GPS and said, oh, got to take this. And so I put that in with the gear, and I set up a netbook computer that I just bought because we wanted to keep track of what we were doing and kind of blog along the way. Well, I got out there and we started using this GPS, and I'm like, how do you use this? It doesn't have any maps. It tracks where you're going. It keeps the statistics, but it doesn't seem to do much for us. And yes, we had the paper maps, and they were turn by turn. They were excellent. So that's what we used.
Yeah.
When we got done with the trip, probably a month later, I'm tootling around and looking into this box with this GPS. And I said, what in the world is this? It was a card of the maps of North America that was supposed to go in the GPS.
Oh, Tim.
So for our subsequent trips, we had a better GPS routing working for us.
All right. Well, let's see if Debbie's available again. I don't know. Debbie, can you hear me? Nod your head if you can. I guess you can't. And if she wants to, she could literally go downstairs and join Tim down there. I bet that's what she's doing. That'll be interesting. So, so what I'm gonna do? We're gonna do something on the fly here. Yeah, pull up a chair. And what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna fix this.
There we go.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
I can only imagine. I don't know. So what I did while you were moving is I fixed your names on the screen. Okay. We've run a little bit over, but we've got some extra time. So let me shift gears a little bit on the topic of bicycling. That's not all that you do. Several books have been written, but I said narrow it down to one, and the one you narrowed it down to, Wheels of Wisdom, and you co-authored this book. So share with us what brought this into being.
Is it over?
She
can't hear a thing I'm saying.
He wants us to talk about the book. So we took actually 2 more tours after the tour that we described to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had over 10,000 miles on our bicycles. The 3rd tour was a fundraiser for an organization called TheHopeLine. And we were both volunteer hope coaches for that organization that helped young people 13 to 29 through internet chat. So we wanted to raise money for them. And we went on this trip. And of course, we were blogging every single day, pitching people, and people were praying for us. And we had some incredible experiences on that tour. And when we got done, it was almost like, we'd be remiss not to share what we experienced here. And we put it in the form of a devotional that has 52 lessons in it. Some of them teach spiritual truth. Other ones are practical pieces of wisdom. They talk about what happened to us on the road, and then they kind of morph and give the lesson that we took from it. How does this apply, reader, to your life? Here's a scripture to ponder, and here's 3 reflection questions to help you apply what this has taught.
Tim, I'm going to have to rely on you to echo the question
Sure.
to Debbie, because she doesn't have any way of hearing me. Debbie, did you ever think of yourself as a writer, or I could ask the same question of Tim, because most people, don't. What brought you to the point of thinking you had to have a book?
Well, I feel like we wanted to capture all the memories that we were making during that bike ride, and we did keep a blog, and Tim kind of made me write. But I've always liked to write. I mean, I was a home ec teacher, and when they cut the program, I sat and thought, what do I love to do? And it's read and write. So I became a literacy specialist. So I was able to put my thoughts and feelings on paper. It's more of a challenge now as I get older, but during the trip, it was easy to write not every night. We took turns pretty much.
I see. All right. Well, Debbie, pass the headgear over to your husband, Tim.
Okay.
And so he can hear.
Okay.
This is live, folks, in case you didn't know. Tim, to me, it's quite amazing. I mean, I took a journey with physical fitness when I was 48, but that was in reaction to weighing 266 pounds and having blood pressure like 200 over 100, you know. So I got in shape at 48, but you were clearly, bicycling requires a lot physically. Don't know, I won't put you on the spot and say how old you are now, but is the rigors of bicycling in the past, or is this something that you continue?
It's actually something we do continue. We go out on a weekend or something and we'll go 25, 30 miles. Of course, now when we go for a ride like that, we're not on loaded bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
When you're riding across the country, you have another, 40 to 60 pounds that you're carrying on your bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Slows you down a little bit. But it also, I actually prefer riding the loaded bike because it's much more stable and very comfortable.
Well, if you put the weight between the pedals, your head, and the rear axle, that triangle is that's what I learned in motorcycle school. I'm a motorcyclist, or was. When you go on these trips, are you starting to observe that maybe you're kind of getting to be the most senior person in the group?
You'd be surprised. He's talking about senior people.
Uh-huh.
And we've seen a lot of people on the road that are older than us.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Debbie, when I can imagine, even at 52, I mean, that's
Talk about some of the old people we might have seen.
When you think about the rigors, the physical fitness that's required. But I'm wondering now that as you get I won't say older, just in the fourth quarter, let's just say it that way. Are you noticing that you are becoming more and more senior, and people may be starting to refer to you as ma'am and sir, things like that?
Oh my gosh, when we first moved down here, they started calling me ma'am, and they gave us a senior discount at 57.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked, but I really think I met with a little friend of mine today. She's 24, so my friend's daughter. And she showed me pictures of her boyfriend's parents, and they were in their 50s. She goes, "You look better than them." But I feel, look, Tim and I both feel very blessed to be so physically strong. And actually, when we were riding, I'll never forget, I think it was in New York, and we had stopped at a place, and there was a lady at the store said, this couple that just came through, they're in their 70s, and they're riding their bikes across the country. So, we just got our Medicare cards this past year. So I thought, let's go on another bike tour.
I actually called Adventure Cycling Association, who publishes maps. And because I was curious, I'm working on a project, and I was curious about age and bicycling. I said, how old are some of the people that you see going through your office on tours? And he said, I had a guy the other day call me, 87 years old, to buy a set of maps to go across the northern tier. I said, oh, okay, that answers my question. He said most of what they see are people who have retired from work and are bicycling, so older folks, or college students.
Has the world changed? A friend of mine rides a tricycle type, three-wheeled bicycle essentially. And he's older than I am. I'll just say it that way. He was a good friend of my father's. He worked for my father. But anyway, he said when he first started doing this, he said different world. He said today even though he could still take trips, he's reluctant to, because in his words, people are crazy out there now. Have you experienced that?
Actually, yeah. I mean, when we left in 2010, I felt a lot safer than I would now. I mean, we live near the Natchez Trace, which is a parkway, and there's been, bicyclists killed there. And yeah, people are, I think actually, I think I'd want to pack something that might protect us a little more this time around. But that's a whole different story.
Well, he was talking just
A
traffic.
wrench?
Yeah. that people are just they'll run you over. I mean,
Yeah.
he was concerned where people used to be more respectful to bicyclers, but I hate that's a sad commentary, but it comes as no surprise. We're living in a world that's very self-centered and doesn't seem to value life very much,
Right.
except of course their own. It's highly valued. Well, you all are quite the inspiration in several ways. Your accomplishments in bicycling, if that were all, that's pretty outstanding. But another thing I notice that the two of you you're not newlyweds anymore, but you kind of act newlywed. You complete each other's sentences. When I ask a question not directed to either of you, one of you just takes it, and it's almost natural, and it is refreshing to see that the vitality of marriage is not something reserved for 20-year-olds. Do you ever get people noticing what I just noticed and commented on?
I think so. I think we've been around the same people for a while, but I think when we meet people, they are very. My mom, I just think of her. She like loves Tim, and they're like my whole family always says, "You guys are such a great couple." And I do feel. I mean, like I said before, our friendship is the strength, and our faith in the Lord is. We pray every night together. We go to church together. We just love the Lord together and want to serve Him. So, I think hopefully that comes across.
Well, I'm glad that I got. I mean, it's inspiring to me. I mean, if no one else sees or hears this, it's like I got to get out there and try harder. Because I'm not. Well, I guess I am in denial because I push myself and challenge myself to be active. But how long? And I guess I'll give this to Tim. He probably can't hear me, but Debbie, relay the question if you can, or put his headgear on. Tim, you've lived both you. Well, I'll wait for his headgear. Tim, as we kind of wrap things up, I think of myself as being in the fourth quarter, and for me that creates a sense of urgency, especially in terms of mission activity in the kingdom. But I'm also physically active like you are, and I'm on a regimen that I know can't be sustained. But what I say to people is, just because I know I can't do it forever doesn't mean I shouldn't do it now. Given your current trajectory and your pace, how long do you think you can keep this up?
That's a good question. I think I have the same attitude about it that you do. I mean, I've really last few years, I had some back issues, and I've found with some help from some great doctors, some stretching exercises that are excellent and just have helped strengthen my core. I do them religiously every night, and I feel great. So it's a lot of it is just between the ears. I mean, what you think you can do or not. And so you just keep going. I mean, it's not the end when you hit 60 or 65 or whatever other ages out there. As long as you keep moving, that's what you want to do.
Tim, I know your wife can't hear, but you all have been quite an inspiration. There's so much more. I know that there's some confidential information about some upcoming work, so we'll just leave it at that. I hope that you'll take the opportunity to circle back with us when that happens and update us, because I think you'll still be biking at that time, and we appreciate you sharing not only your adventures, but your enthusiasm and the joy and the love between the two of you is just illuminated in your eyes like 20-year-olds, and it's quite an inspiration. So thank you for sharing your story, Tim and Debbie. We appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a privilege. Appreciate it.
Glad to do it. Wow, what a couple. That is... Folks, I know we've gone a little long, but we can do that. But I just, the thought that comes to my mind, and as you've watched and listened to their story, and perhaps you're in the fourth quarter, as I see it, all right, and you're thinking to yourself, you're on the decline, and these depressing thoughts come to you. But I'll add this or offer this to you, because this is what kind of helps me sometimes, because I feel that way too. But as a coach, I can assure you, the less you do, the less you can do. The more you do, the more you can do. And of course, you're thinking that applies physically, and it does, but I also offer you that applies spiritually. That we should challenge ourselves both physically and spiritually, because to keep doing more. And one of the ways I do that, as we wrap up, is I pose two questions to myself. And sometimes I don't, sometimes they're hard to answer. But here's the first question. What is the boldest thing that you have ever done in the kingdom of Christ? That's actually the easier question. The follow-up question is what hits me. How long ago was that? And the challenge is to never be satisfied with either answer.